Hey, you guys, welcome to Burgundy Blue Commentary, where we're talking Black August today. And this is part 4 of our Black August Flea Days. Oh, sorry, guys. I had my iPad on.
Mhm.
This is part 4 and the conclusion of our series with Gardis Watts for Flea Day. So I let Gardis take the floor. Thank you for being here, Gardis. We appreciate this education, and for you to bring more attention to Black August because we don't talk about it a lot out in the open in a lot of communities.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, thank you for allowing me to do this on your platform. I shouted you out on WVON because they asked me to come in and talk about Black August last Saturday. So hopefully we get some more views on it, and people be interested in Black August education. So I will share my screen in 1 minute.
And thank you for the shout out. I'm so glad that you're making the rounds with discussing Black August. And I get emails and people really enjoy you giving the breakdown of this.
Okay, well, I appreciate it because this is something that I love to do in regards to educating the masses because God knows that we need some kind of education going on because I think a lot of people are politically ignorant, and it's only because we really don't know our history. So let me do this. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All righty.
I know.
All righty. So the fourth installment, um, the fourth installment of our Black August series. So this is Flea Day number 4, August 21st, even though the day is August 22nd. Obviously, Berg and I had some scheduling conflicts, just like the last time. But we're gonna get through this one. So,
Yes,
uh, yeah, just a day late. That's all. Just one day late. So August 21st. August 21st, according to Black August, is the commemoration of George Jackson's assassination by prison guards on August 21st, 1971. Um, as we've been saying in this series, Jackson kind of was uh, one of the main, well, he was the main figures of the Black August movement. When you think about his writing, his political activism within the prison system, his association with people like W.L. Nolan, the creation of the Black Guerrilla family, which was, like I said, originally a political protection unit within the California prison systems, and many things of George Jackson we can talk about. But let's start kind of like with his origins. So George Jackson actually has a Chicago connection because George Jackson was actually born here in Chicago on September 23rd, 1941, to Georgia and Robert Jackson. Now, according to some people, George Jackson, who was a teenager, got into some trouble here in Chicago. And so I guess the solution for the Jacksons was to move to Los Angeles, which they did in 1956. So they moved to Los Angeles. However, George Jackson still managed to kind of get himself into trouble. And in 1960, George Jackson was convicted of stealing $70 from a gas station and was actually given one of the weirdest sentences I've heard of: 1 year to life. So I think I looked that up, and I think what it was that every year he'll be eligible for parole every time every year of his term that comes up. And obviously he was denied all of his paroles when when he was in prison. And unfortunately, Jackson only served 11 years in prison because he eventually died in prison. But as I said last week when we commemorated W.L. Nolan, Jackson met W.L. Nolan in San Quentin prison in 1966, where basically Nolan and Jackson got together, and Nolan basically kind of politicized Jackson on a lot of things, gave him things to read. I think I mentioned last week Frantz Fanon, Marxist literature in regards to socialism and communism, Mao Zedong writings, and just kind of giving a perspective of the capitalist system and the racist system that we live here in the United States. Well, Jackson was a big voice in the Black prison movement. When you talk about W.L. Nolan and Jackson, like I said, forming the Black guerrilla family, because what they found was many of the Black prisoners in the California prison system, whether it be Soledad, whether it be San Quentin, they have been Black prisoners have been under various racial attacks by the Aryan Brotherhood that was in the prison system, and the prison guards, the white prison guards that were in there, who basically offed a lot of Black prisoners during that time. But also too, they were in a kind of a revolutionary time when you think about the 60s and the 70s, where you had the civil rights movement, you had the Black Power movement, you had revolutions that were happening in Cuba and Africa. These were all in that same time frame. And apparently the prison system was no different, because Jackson and Nolan, by many prison officials, were considered dangerous, because during their time too, there were a lot of prison riots that were happening, and it escalated even more after Jackson, W.L. Nolan, and Qatari Gauton's deaths. And I'll probably explain what propelled Jackson into the spotlight, because as I said last week, Nolan died in January of 1970. And right after, the prison guard who shot W.L. Nolan and his two comrades to death, Opie Miller, who was the tower guard, he was exonerated from all crimes about 3 days later. Well, Jackson and the prisoners in Soledad basically did not like it, and they first went on a hunger strike, but then a prison riot broke out, which a guard had been murdered. Well, he hasn't been murdered, but somehow this guard fell from the third floor of the prison all the way to, the first floor, and he ended up dying from his injuries. And they basically tried to blame Jackson, his comrades Fleta Drumgo and John Clochette for the murder of this guard. Well, they eventually successfully charged Jackson and his two comrades for this murder, and this was considered the Soledad brothers, because they were in Soledad prison, and they were unfairly being charged with the murder, because apparently they had no chain of evidence of how this guard was able to fall 3 flights of stairs. This doesn't mean that somebody pushed him, but they tried to specifically say that Jackson and his comrades were the ones who threw the guard from the third floor to the first floor. Jackson and his two comrades claim innocence of that whole situation, but unfortunately, because Jackson was a threat, because Jackson was a very intelligent person and can articulate the plight of Black people in the prison system, he had to go. And they probably couldn't kill him at that moment because now that W.L. Nolan was gone, Jackson had the spotlight. And in a lot of cases, they don't typically off those particular people when the light shines upon them, because at that point, it'll be obvious that if they killed him at that moment, there would definitely be a crusade to find the conspiracy against George Jackson. Now, unfortunately, they basically kind of waited a year, because Jackson, after that conviction, was sentenced to solitary confinement. 23-hour lockdown and solitary confinement. Can barely sees light for about an hour, and I think it was basically to avoid the death penalty. But on August 21st, 1971, George Jackson was killed by prison guards in a attempt to escape San Quentin prison. He was in San Quentin at this time. After conferring with an attorney, Stephen Bingham, along with a legal clerk, Vanita Witherspoon, for 50 minutes, the reports say that he pulled out a smuggled pistol from his afro, where he gets into a shootout with the guards and he's shot dead. The investigation was shoddy because, first of all, how did George Jackson get a gun into prison? Because, as I explained before, George Jackson was in solitary confinement. Now, if you don't know, solitary confinement is exactly what it is. You are isolated from all other prisoners, and you're in this small cell for 23 hours with just one guard guarding you. So many people would think that his meeting with that particular attorney, Stephen Bingham, who actually was one of his attorneys, he was the one that basically, what they claim was the one that brought the gun in, because after the investigation, they tried to look for him, and he was on the lam for a long time. But apparently, he was not charged with conspiracy to bring the gun in, because what was interesting is there was a viewing of a Black Panther documentary, and they talked about George Jackson. Oh, and I want to also say too, George Jackson was also an official member of the Black Panther Party. In 1967, he befriended Huey P. Newton, who was one of the founders of the Black Panther Party, and George Jackson was considered a field marshal in the Black Panther Party. So he was actually an official member of the Black Panther Party. And what was also interesting was, and I talked about this in the second Flea Day with his brother Jonathan Jackson. Now, Jonathan Jackson was associated with the Black Panthers during that time. And according to certain testimonies from I guess it was officials who tried to infiltrate the Black Panther Party, there was actually a full-blown plan to kidnap the judge in the Jonathan Jackson incident, and actually fly those involved in the Marion Courthouse assault, to fly them to a neutral country where they demanded the release of the Soledad brothers. What was said in the testimonies of the agents that were infiltrating the Black Panthers, they said that basic plot was actually a real plot. But the problem was, because I guess apparently before that thing happened, there were several Black Panthers who trained in the mountains of California for that particular Marion Court assault. However, what happened was, and this is a testimony from one of the agents who infiltrated the Black Panthers, he said that it was called off because apparently there would have been too much heat on the Black Panthers, and they felt like they didn't have enough ammunition to fight the backlash. What would have happened? And apparently there were people that claimed. Now Huey P. Newton said that he didn't call it off, but Huey P. Newton also was in prison during this time. Well, actually, you know what? He was just released from prison when the Marion County assault happened. But apparently there were claims that he called it off. However, they said that Jonathan Jackson and his comrades didn't get the memo. And they went on, and I guess they were surprised that there was no other Black Panthers who were awaiting them when they escaped from, or where they left the Marion courthouse. So this is why they had eventually got killed in the shootout with the police, because I think they were waiting for a group of Black Panthers to basically pick them up during that time, but they never made it out of the parking lot. So George Jackson, I guess there was some contention with Jackson and the Black Panther Party during this time. However, Newton basically claimed that, he never called it off, but he never kind of supported it either, because he felt that it wasn't the right time. So Jackson never held that against Huey P. Newton. But even though there were always questions on why didn't the Black Panthers, support his brother Jonathan Jackson's risk to try to get his brother out of Soledad prison. But the interesting part is, I mentioned the legal clerk, Vanita Witherspoon. There were reports within the Black Panther Party that Vanita Witherspoon was an FBI informant. I think Huey P. Newton's comrades had claimed that she was an FBI informant. Remember when I said that Bigham was at a Pan-African Film Festival viewing a documentary of the Black Panthers, and they asked him about Witherspoon. They asked him about Witherspoon because apparently the first reports were Witherspoon was the one that handed the briefcase to Bingham, and then Bingham handed the briefcase to Jackson, and in the briefcase was the gun. Well, the thing was that Jackson didn't walk away with a briefcase or anything like that. Apparently, they quote unquote, smuggled the pistol somehow in his afro. But why didn't anybody check the briefcase? Because in prison procedures, that's what they do. They check your briefcase, they check your bags, they check everything that's on you. And his other attorney, Jackson's other attorney, John Thorne, basically said it doesn't make sense. Jackson was a very smart person, and he knew that he was not going to win in a shootout with one pistol. I mean, you're in a prison with guards who are armed, and you're telling me that he wanted to smuggle a pistol in the prison where he's going to shoot out with the guards and eventually win? That doesn't make sense. Thorne said that Jackson was too smart for that. He was no dummy. And like I said, there was no real chain of evidence to support the claim that Jackson actually smuggled that pistol. So there was a lot of ifs in that investigation, and many people to this day, and even claim to this day, that Jackson was intentionally assassinated, and they fabricated that story that Jackson smuggled that pistol into San Quentin, and he was unfortunately killed. Because the thing about Jackson, along with W.L. Nolan, is that they were considered some of the most dangerous prisoners in the prison system, because it wasn't that they were intimidating folks, but they were radicalizing people's minds. They were politicizing people's minds in the prison systems. So Jackson is famously known for 2 books, Soledad Brother, The Prison Letters of George Jackson, and Blood in My Eye. Now, Soledad Brother was written in, I think it was 67. Basically, it's just a collection of prison letters, his experience of racism in the prison system, his experiences with the subjugation and the abuse of prison guards on Black folks, and the politics that a lot of Black people in the prison system was kind of like gaining. So he wrote several letters and he formatted that into a book. Blood in My Eye was actually published after Jackson was assassinated. And so it's one of his most famous books because Jackson talks about his politics in Blood in My Eye. He talks about that this country needs a revolution. This country under the current capitalist and racist system is not going to survive. And so in Blood in My Eye, he talks about those experiences, and he also covers a lot of his fallen comrades like W.L. Nolan, his brother Jonathan Jackson, and several people who have fallen to the terrorism of the prison guards. But he also equates that with a lot of stuff that was going on outside of the prison system in the society at that time, because I think he felt people were ready for revolution at that time. As you see with Soledad Brothers, if you see that image of the original copy of Soledad Brothers, the original artwork of that book, you see in the upper right hand corner there's an image that kind of like mirrors that. So that's where that image is taken from, in the upper right hand corner. That's a silhouette of George Jackson from the Soledad prison letters. So Jackson, being kind of like the intellectual of Black August, is a very important figure when you talk about the Black August resistance movement. Now, as I stated earlier and last year, Black August extends out to what I wanted to do before I go into the next point of Black August, I wanted to talk about an important person. This is George Jackson's mother, Georgia Jackson. And I wanted to play this because she had a press conference right after George Jackson was assassinated. Now, mind you, remember last week we commemorated Jonathan Jackson on the third flea day. The second flea day. So she had just lost her youngest son and Jonathan Jackson and George Jackson within a span of 2 years. So I want to play about 6 minutes of this, if that's okay, Berg.
It's perfectly fine. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
This was Saturday afternoon, about 5 minutes after 5. And at first I didn't think it was George because it said George Johnson. So I went on with my sewing. And then about 3 or 4 minutes later, they said it was George Jackson, one of the so-called Soledad brothers. Now, nobody ever bothered to call me and tell me that he was dead. And it's, well, for the past 10 or 11 years, I've expected to hear that he was dead anyway. So, although the shock was there from the radio, I still expected to hear it someday, but not from the radio.
Her son died is fairly well known. Do you believe that? Do you disbelieve that? And do you have any other possibilities? What do you think?
No, I don't believe that because I don't think my son was mad, and I don't think he was an idiot. And I don't think that he would do the things that they said he did. You know, these people have for years gotten away with saying anything that they want to say because they have absolute power over those men. Those men can't even sneeze unless they want them to. They can say anything that they want to say, and we have to take it. You know that. Did they let any of you go in there and find out and talk to the people what happened? You only took their word for what happened. And that's the way it's always been.
What do you think happened?
I think they expected me to go and sit in the corner and cry and not really look at George. But I did. I looked at him. I saw everything that happened to him. He was shot more than once. In fact, his body was mutilated. George was a fine-looking man. But you wouldn't have been able to recognize him after they got through with him. It seemed as if they just did things to him for a vengeance, you know. And then when I talked on the phone to him about it at San Quentin, they said everybody was glad he was dead. And you could tell that they were glad for what they did to his body.
Oh, sorry for the commercial.
Okay. Wow.
Stability, precision, that's the essence of driving. Lawful.
Okay.
You are free to change whatever you hear into the lies that you see. We have no misconception about how Black people are treated in the penal institutions of this country. There's a lady that sits beside me who has firsthand knowledge of the way Black people are treated in the penal institutions of this country. We are informed that press coverage.
I heard about George's death on the radio. I think that happened. I don't know exactly what happened, but I do know that the guards were out to get him. I know that there was one guard there that treated him very well because he told me, this man has kept me alive since they returned me to San Quentin. And unfortunately, I can't remember his name. That since we can't get justice from the state of California and we can't get justice from America in general, that we need somebody to intercede for us to see that some justice is done in this country concerning the murder of my son and the murder of so many other men in prison. And it's basically that.
Say people in New York wanted to
sacrificing white lives along with Black lives if it achieves what they're after. In other words, no Black voice can get too loud in this country. It's always silenced. The minute somebody comes forward and tries to inform the masses of people, white and Black, what's going on, because you see, most people are selfish. They don't bother to think what's happening to their fellow man. Just so long as they're surviving, they don't care what happens to the next person. But I don't say that they're cruel, but they just don't stop to think about it. It's like you people. You don't stop to think about anything but getting a story because that's your livelihood. You don't care where I'm being repressed or murdered because that's not really on your mind. But once you start to think about these things, you might be impressed to the fact that, say, we're all Americans, and these things that are happening to other Americans just possibly might happen to me. So in order to keep this thought from ever reaching any of the so-called good people or the silent majority as they're termed, these things are conducted in a way as to make prejudice against, what's going on. They do this. They frame all these little lies in the prisons. They keep people away from prisons. They build them way out somewhere where when you're poor like me, it takes you forever to get there. And if you get there, you spend some money that you need to exist on in order to get there. They try to take your people away, keep them away. He's a political prisoner, even though he didn't believe, hadn't believed in socialism, if he hadn't believed in that, he would still be a political prisoner. Because in this country, the prisons are run by whatever political party is in. This year, it happens to be Republicans, so Republicans are running it. Next year, if the Democrats get in, they'll appoint their special little murderers to do their job. So it's no different. A group in there that are Nazis. And this group, they call themselves Nazis. And this is the people who are hired, who are given special privileges by the guards to do their dirty work for them.
Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Jackson,
You, listening to her you see why George Jackson is the way he is. And it seems like it wasn't just W.L. Nolan that politicized George Jackson. Listening to her, it seemed like she gave him a lot of political and radical knowledge as well. So she's not really fooled by the context of how her son or her sons were assassinated. That woman, like I said, lost 2 sons in a span of a year. But I wanted to read this because I thought it was important. So Georgia Jackson also had to testify in Angela Davis's trial. Now, if you all remember in the second plea day that commemorated Jonathan Jackson, we talked about a connection of Angela Davis because apparently the guns that Jonathan Jackson used were registered to one Angela Davis, who became a fugitive. Then she got captured. Then she went on trial. And then she was acquitted by an all-white jury. But I wanted to read this testimony that she had at the November 15th, 1971 trial of Angela Davis. So she says, quote, "I don't believe in God anymore. I don't believe in anything anymore. I sit and watch my little grandchildren cry at night. They can't eat. We can't sleep. I have always been poor and black and made to feel inferior. I've lost faith in human beings. I wish I were dead right now. Why should I have to be miserable? Why should I have to suffer like this? I don't know anything about any conspiracies. I don't care if I died right here on this floor. These stupid questions. I'm an innocent bystander. What is truth? I'm a mother, nothing else. Nobody tells a mother anything. All a mother does is suffer after everything happens. I'm not going to take part of any court of law anymore because I think they're just here to torment me. I went to mass every day for nearly 4 years praying for my son in prison. I don't hardly know what my name is. I can't even function as a normal human being anymore. Go on and kill me. Put me in jail. I don't care if I'm dead. I would like to go home and die in peace."
Wow.
That was very telling. And I mean, that's the voice of a grieving mother. Like I said, she lost 2 sons in the span of a year. So this is, yeah, I mean, it's tragic, but at the same time, you know, George tried to enlighten folks about not just being in greater confinement in the California prison system, but being in confinement to many things in the capitalist and racist system that enslave us, like the economy, the politics. We are kind of enslaved somehow, some way. And when we expand Black August education, and especially political education, we talk about enslavement because it's part of that Black August energy. And one of the aspects of Black August is talking about the revolts that have happened, especially in August. And one of the most important slave revolts that had happened during the time of slavery was the Haitian Revolution. It was basically a revolution, a slave revolt that basically started the collapse of the slave system. Many nations felt that this was an important time in history, because at this point, it was the first slave rebellion in the Western Hemisphere that was actually not only successful, but actually resulted in the a nation, the first Black Western nation in the Americas. So when we think about the Haitian Revolution, which started on August 22nd, 1971, the first figure that we talk about is Duddy Bookman. Duddy Bookman was basically enslaved. He was basically what they call a Basale. So a Basale is an African person who was actually born in Africa. And then what happened was he was captured into slavery. Now, Bookman basically was first imported to Jamaica, and then he was sold to a planter in Haiti, where he lived out the rest of his life. However, Duddy Bookman was a literate slave. He can actually read, and some claim that he can read Arabic because apparently he was a Muslim. And they called him Bookman because apparently they said he was a man of the book, and the book that they claim he was carrying was the Quran. Now, Bookman also delved into African spiritual practices, which many call voodoo. Now, Bookman apparently synchronized Islam and voodoo together. And what he did was he was basically a leader in the community of enslaved Africans. So in the northern part of Haiti, there was a forest called Bois Common. And this forest was kind of a swampy area. Not a lot of people went into it because, it was a swamp and it had all kind of alligators and lizards and, stuff that, most people wouldn't want to be in. Bookman called for a meeting with the enslaved African community in the northern part of Haiti. And he called many of the enslaved, and this also included this one woman named Fatima, who was Bookman's companion. And what they did was, a week before August 21st, 1791, they basically planned the slave revolt. So they got all of the slaves in the local plantations in the northern part of Haiti to meet up at this forest called Bois Common. And what they did was they had a voodoo ceremony where they basically made this pact with each other. They basically made a blood pact with each other and basically kind of said that we're going to start this revolt next week. And there was a signal given, and next thing you know, the revolt happened. Now, there's not a lot of historical information on this. However, there were some people who have passed on some information of what happened in Bois Common to actual historians that tried to chronicle the Haitian Revolution and the history of Haiti. And apparently, there was a prayer that Bookman had prayed to the slaves when they were planning this revolt. And he said, and this is the quote: "The God who created the earth, who created the sun that gives us light, the God who holds up the ocean, who makes the thunder roar, our God who has ears to hear, you who are hidden in the clouds, who watch us where you are. You see all that the white man has made us suffer. The white man's God asked him to commit crimes, but the God within us wants to do good. Our God, who is so good, so just, he orders us to revenge our wrongs. It is he who directs our arms and brings us to victory. It's he who will assist us. We all should throw away the image of the white man's God, who is so pitiless. Listen to the voice for liberty that speaks in all of our hearts, end quote. So Bookman said that prayer, and next thing you know, they started the signal, and on the night of August 22nd, 1791, the northern part of Haiti was in flames because there were several killings. Slaves burnt down plantations, and there was much chaos going on. So Bookman successfully launched this revolution. Now, the one thing about Duddy Bookman was he was not a very good military leader. And what I mean by that was about 2 weeks later, the French army, who was actually in Haiti. Now, mind you, I'm calling it Haiti because that's the current name. That's the current name of it now. But before it was called Haiti, it was called Saint-Domingue. Saint-Domingue was a colony of France, and it was a slave colony of France because they produced sugar in the island of Saint-Domingue. But well, actually, the island of Hispaniola. Saint-Domingue was the French part of it, and then on the east side of it was currently what is called the Dominican Republic. Back then, the eastern part of Hispaniola was Santo Domingo. So Bookman, unfortunately, and the people who launched the revolution were met by French militia, and unfortunately they were killed. And what the militia did too was they chopped the heads off of the conspirators and put them on stakes where they, many of the slaves can see, like, more of an intimidation tactic. Like, hey, if you try to revolt against us, this is what we'll do. We'll put your head on the spike. Now, while they captured a lot of the conspirators, there were many slaves who escaped the French militia. But what they found was one of the key figures of the Haitian Revolution, Toussaint Louverture, basically took the mantle. He took the mantle of being the revolutionary leader of the Saint-Domingue army. And what they found in Toussaint Louverture was Toussaint Louverture actually was a former slave. He was owned by a plantation owner named Breda, and he was known as Toussaint Breda. But when he was able to buy his way, because during that time, slaves were actually able to buy their way out of slavery. When he bought his way out of slavery, he left Breda plantation and basically started his own plantation. And he changed his last name to Louverture. I'm not sure what the significance of that, or I might have forgot it, but he wanted to get rid of his master's name and changed it to Toussaint Louverture. Well, the Revolutionary Army that was under Bookman, which was splintered after Bookman was executed, was now being picked up by Toussaint Louverture. Now, the thing about Toussaint Louverture was he was a successful businessman because, like I said, he bought his own plantation. But he was also literate too. Toussaint actually can read. Now, during that time, 95% of enslaved Africans could not read. Toussaint was a reader, and he read a lot of books, and he was a very smart person. But the thing that distinguished him from Bookman Duddy and from Duddy Bookman and Toussaint Louverture was Toussaint Louverture also studied military strategy. So he was able to gain the respect of the Revolutionary Army and basically formed a formidable army to battle the French militia. Now, what's interesting is Louverture had recruited a couple of lieutenants who I'm going to get into one that was very important. What Louverture did was, once he formed the army, he went over to the Spanish side, which is the east side of the island, to Santo Domingo, and he offered his services to the Spaniards, because the thing was that he wanted to get back at the French so bad that he needed to get these two nations, Spain and France, to start fighting each other, because the thing about Louverture was he was running out of ammunition, so he needed the support of another nation, and he talked the Spaniards into supporting his revolutionary army to fight back against the French, because during this time Spain and France was at war with each other. So what better way to get back at the French by going to their enemies and declaring their allegiance to the Spanish army? So Toussaint got his revolutionary army and his lieutenants over to Spain, and they were fighting for the Spanish army against the French. Now, what's interesting is the governor general of Saint Domingue, the French part of the island, was a guy named Santharax. Santharax, when he found out that Toussaint went over to the Spanish side and they were fighting against him, Santharax was put in a bind. So he went to the French council, who in France, who governed the island of Saint Domingue, saying that we need to abolish slavery, because unfortunately Toussaint is going to destroy, the low French militia that's over there. So Santharax was able to get slavery abolished from Saint Domingue, and what ended up happening was Toussaint moved his army back into the French side of the island, which is Saint Domingue, and basically Santharax had to make Toussaint chief general of the Revolutionary Army, or the French militia that was in charge of Saint Domingue. So now Toussaint becomes one of the most powerful men in Saint Domingue, a former slave who has this large army of former enslaved people, and they basically kind of run the army. Well, there were still some Frenchmen in the island. There were enslavers who now they couldn't enslave anybody because now slavery has been abolished in Haiti. And they have this black man who basically, is the leader general of the French militia in Saint Domingue. So Santharax felt threatened by this. Well, he very well should have been, because Toussaint basically got rid of him. He wrote to the French consulate to have him removed. And surprisingly enough, he did have him removed. Now, there was a mulatto general in the southern part of Haiti called Andre Rigaud. He hated Toussaint Louverture, because Toussaint was while he was what many would consider a Creole. So Toussaint was a full-blooded African, but he wasn't born in Africa. He was born on the island of Haiti. So they considered those Creoles. The Boussalis were the ones who were born in Africa, but were transported over. And then you have the mulattoes, who were half African and half white. Well, Andre Rigaud was also a general in the French militia, but he did not accept his orders to be under Toussaint Louverture. So they had a civil war that happened in 1799, which Toussaint won that war off of his main general, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Dessalines was tasked to defeat Rigaud in the South, and he was able to do that. So Toussaint basically became the governor general after they got rid of Santharax, and he basically ruled the island of Haiti. And what ended up happening was he also invades the eastern part of the island, which was ruled by the Spaniards, because the thing was that Spain withdrew a lot of their army from the eastern part of Santo Domingo, and he was able to take over the whole island of Hispaniola. Now, during this time as well, a small little guy named Napoleon Bonaparte became the emperor of France. Now, Napoleon was kind of eyeing the events that were happening in Haiti. And he was kind of jealous of Toussaint Louverture, because how did this former slave was able to conquer the entire island of Hispaniola, both the Haitian side and the Dominican Republic side? And so he tasked his brother-in-law, Napoleon's brother-in-law, Charles de Clercq, who was a general in the French army, to go and reconquer Haiti and re-enslave all of those blacks that are so-called running the island. So de Clercq sent an armada. Bonaparte sent an armada to Haiti. I think roughly about 10,000 French troops to the island of Haiti to re-enslave, or to conquer it and re-enslave the Haitians. Well, Toussaint Louverture got wind of this, and Toussaint kind of figured that they were going to be facing a big battle. Now, obviously, a bunch of ex-slaves who are willing to die still may not be a fight when you're talking about 10,000 Frenchmen coming to try to conquer the island. So Toussaint basically decided that he might want to make a deal with Leclerc, because he was the leader of the armada. But Dessalines didn't like that idea. He said that we should fight. Toussaint basically tried to talk Dessalines into getting on his side, saying, hey, look, we don't have enough ammunition to fight these people. So we probably need to kind of, let's see if we can negotiate with them. So when Leclerc got there, Toussaint wanted to meet with him, and he met with them, and he had suggested that he would resign his commission in the French army if he would take Dessalines and two of his generals into it, Henri Christophe and I forgot the other guy's name, but they were some of the generals that Toussaint had brought up. Leclerc was like, okay, we'll accept those terms. But what they did was they tricked him. So they made Dessalines a general in the French army. But what they did was they asked Toussaint for a meeting in a place in the southern part of Haiti. And what they did was the French army arrested Toussaint and shipped him back to France, where he basically kind of died in a cell in France. Now, they didn't tell Dessalines this, but when Dessalines found out, he kind of figured out that they were going to reinstitute slavery on the island of Haiti. Well, as soon as they found that out, Dessalines withdraws his commission from the French army and basically reinstates the Revolutionary Army of Saint-Domingue. Well, they go into a battle. Now, what's interesting is during this time, Leclerc and thousands of his troops succumbed to yellow fever, and the armada that was sent to the island of Haiti to re-enslave it lost thousands and thousands of soldiers. So they were basically crippled. Now, this gives basically the advantage to the Revolutionary Army of Saint-Domingue. Now, when de Clercq dies, there was a general named Rochambeau. Rochambeau was a straight racist white supremacist. Not to say that Leclerc wasn't, but Rochambeau, just like with Dessalines and Toussaint, Rochambeau was not in the business of negotiating with Toussaint. He wanted Toussaint's head. But when Rochambeau took over, Rochambeau was very vicious in this war against the Revolutionary Army. So what Rochambeau did, and this is crazy because what's interesting about Donatien Rochambeau, General Donatien Rochambeau, was his father was in the Revolutionary War because his father was one of the Frenchmen that helped the Revolutionary Army of this country to beat the British. So Rochambeau was a general in the French army in Saint-Domingue. Now, mind you, when Leclerc had died and half of his army, most of his army was decimated, Napoleon Bonaparte was running out of money. And he wanted to fund this war because he really wanted to conquer the island of Haiti. So what they did was, and I don't know if you remember this, Berg, in history, you had this thing called the Louisiana Purchase. And there were like 7 states that the United States, quote unquote, bought from the French government because apparently the French government claimed parts of Louisiana and Oklahoma and I think it was Missouri and all these places. And they bought it from the French so they can supply the arms to the French army that was in Saint-Domingue trying to reinstate slavery on that island. So the Louisiana Purchase was done to continue the war in Haiti. So when Rochambeau took over, he was very vicious to the Haitian slaves or the Haitian soldiers that he captured, because from reports, Rochambeau would, whenever they had a battle and there were Haitian prisoners, he would basically torture them and feed him to his man-eating dogs. And they would basically eat the flesh of the slaves that were captured. This is how Rochambeau was. Now, what was also interesting was there were several mulatto generals who were in the Revolutionary Army that actually didn't like Dessalines. And they were trying to make a backdoor deal with Rochambeau to say, hey, commission us back into the French army. Well, the thing they didn't realize was Rochambeau didn't like anybody with African blood. So what happened was the wives of these mulatto generals were invited to a ball where Rochambeau was hosting because he knew that they were the wives of the generals. So he basically kind of wined them and dined them, and he put boxes in front of the wives of the generals. And when the wives opened the boxes, it was the heads of their husbands. And he was so sadistic that he basically mocked these women, saying that I don't want your husbands in my army because they have African blood in them. And what he declared to Dessalines is when he caught, if he ever caught Dessalines, he would definitely feed him to his man-eating dogs. Well, Dessalines had the same instance, because Dessalines, who was actually a former slave himself, he hated white Frenchmen. And he declared that if he caught Rochambeau, he would torture him just like his slave masters used to torture him when he was a slave. So as the war went on, Dessalines' army started to get the better of Rochambeau's army. And it got to a point after victory that the final battle, which happened in November of 1803, Rochambeau had to flee because the thing was that his army was decimated, and by November of 1804, Rochambeau and the smaller army ended up in the northern part of Haiti, and on his tail was the Revolutionary Army of Saint-Domingue with Dessalines hot on his tail. Well, during this time, the British was at war with the French, because during this time Napoleon was like at war with everybody. So this was during the Napoleonic Wars. So the British basically had an embargo on Saint-Domingue. So anything that floated out of Saint-Domingue, there was a British freighter who was there to stop them. So Rochambeau, who was running from the Revolutionary Army, decided he wanted to go to the Bay of Port-au-Prince, and in the Bay of Port-au-Prince was the British Army. Well, the thing was that if they caught Rochambeau, he was going to be sent to prison in the British Army. Guess what Rochambeau did? He had to make a decision. Do I get captured by Dessalines, or do I give myself up to the British? He gave himself up to the British because he knew that if Dessalines caught him, he was going to torture him and kill him.
Wow.
So Rochambeau ended up being in prison for 20 years in a prison in London for war crimes. But this is what started the nation of Haiti. So on January 1st, when when all of the French armies withdrew from the island of Saint-Domingue, January 1st, 1804 was declared the Republic of Haiti. And Jacques Dessalines was the first leader of the first nation that was run by Black people in the Western Hemisphere. So it was always a fascinating story when I thought about it.
It really is.
Yeah, it is a very fascinating story. And I haven't even told you, I've only told you a little bit of it. But what also lies within it is a lot of the issues that the Haitians deal with today. Because remember, I was talking about the Basales and the Creoles and the mulattoes. See, those three groups were kind of like separate, and especially when you're talking about the mulattoes who were half white, and they always thought that they were better than the Basales and the Creoles. Well, the Creoles always had this thing. Well, I was born on this island, and I have claim to it, so I'm better than the Basales who were taken from their land. And then the Basales felt like they were the pure-blooded Africans, and that they were better than the other two because they were either tainted with white blood or white culture. So when the Haitian Revolution happened, those three ethnic groups got together and basically was able to beat the French. However, when they formed the nation, you started to see that split again. And this is why a lot of internal conflicts happened within Haiti, and it gave the European nations an opportunity to come in and stir a lot of this issues that's happening in Haiti up until this day. Because remember, a couple of years ago, the president of Haiti, Jovenel Moïse, was assassinated, and much of it has to deal with. So the Haitians agreed on what they were going to abolish, and that was slavery, but they never fully agreed on what they were going to stand for. And this is why their political foundation couldn't stand, because of the fact that many leaders had different visions of what the island of Haiti should be. So it's a fascinating story of a successful slave revolt, but what also lies within the country's history is a crisis of political identity. But the thing too was the Haitian Revolution sparked many revolts that have happened that had connections to Haiti. One of them is the Nat Turner Rebellion. Now, many people feel like Nat Turner knew about the Haitian Revolution, and many people speculated that he studied the Haitian Revolution. But the thing about Nat Turner, and just as a little context, Nat Turner was born around 1800. He was a literate slave in Southampton County, Virginia. He was basically tasked to be a preacher to the slaves. So he basically taught the Bible. Well, he didn't teach the Bible, but because of the fact that he could read the Bible, he was able to preach to the slaves about being good to their masters and being good to Christ, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Nat Turner basically, as he was reading the Bible, he started to see stuff about liberation, Moses and the Exodus, and several other instances in the Bible where it wasn't just slavery, it was basically liberation as well. So the Bible has this contrast of, yes, they do have verses about slavery, but they're also verses about liberation. So Turner started focusing on liberation scriptures. And what ended up happening was he started to gain a congregation of the enslaved that was willing to do anything they can to get out of this particular institution. Now, mind you, while Turner was a Christian minister, he knew, and especially from the Exodus story where the Israelites basically was freed from the Egyptians, that because the institution of slavery was a violent institution, the only way out of it was violence. And if you look at the history if you look at world history, you will find that many, if all of the slave revolts or the end of slavery was always met with bloodshed. Whether you're talking about the Haitian Revolution, whether you're talking about the Civil War, whether you're talking about the Exodus story, because if you remember that Exodus story, God sent plagues to kill a lot of the Egyptians. So in a sense, when you look at the Exodus story, God actually used violence to free the Israelites. So in the history of the end of slavery, none of them have ended in negotiations. None of them had ended no revolution has ended bloodless. So Nat Turner just kind of realized, like, hey, we got to free ourselves any way we can. So he decided one day, just like with Duddy Bookman, that we need to kill our slave masters and form an army where we can get some arms. I think they were trying to go to an armory in Virginia where they were going to open up the arms and basically form their own revolutionary army. Like I said, many people thought that he might have studied the tactics of Toussaint Louverture in the Haitian Revolution story. But unfortunately, they couldn't get there because they were met by a Virginia militia and they were put down, where Nat Turner and some of his fellow conspirators were executed. And what they did to Nat Turner was they just didn't hang him. They skinned him. They used his skin for oil. I think they basically made a lot of his body parts relics. And it was basically vicious what they did to his body, because they just kind of like tore it apart and basically made an example of the rest of the slave society that said that, hey, if you try to revolt against us, this is what's going to happen. And this also sparked a law that stated that it was illegal to teach a slave to read because of the Nat Turner Rebellion. because they found out Nat Turner, you know, he was a reader. And you know what's so funny? I saw a quote, even to this day. It's hard to, it's basically hard to mentally enslave a reader, especially somebody who reads a lot, because they're not easy to convince. So yeah, this is basically what sparked more literacy amongst the slaves, and they didn't allow slaves to even read. If you had a speck that you thought you were going to read, you know, that you looked like you were reading, yeah, they would either whip you or string you up and hang you just for that. And that was because of the Nat Turner Rebellion. And then with Black August, we celebrate the birthdays of many of the revolutionaries that whose birthdays in August. Obviously, Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. Don't have much to say because obviously there was a show that we did a couple of months ago. So if you want to learn about Fred Hampton Sr., go to that show that we, me, Berg, and Fred Hampton, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. did.
Yeah.
He was on the show talking about his father's legacy. So a lot of it. So I'll just give you the short outline. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. Good student, Proviso West student, an activist in his early age, dealing with the NAACP and the Urban League, and then eventually forming the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. He was the founder, the chairman, the president, who also worked with many other famous Black Panthers, including one Bobby Rush, who is currently or retired congressman because he was his minister of defense. Unfortunately, he was executed at the age of 21 by Chicago police in his apartment on the west side. And during his activism, Chairman Fred Hampton was able to get people like the Young Lords, who was a Latino group. He was able to ban the Young Patriots, who were kind of like a white nationalist group. And even though he wasn't able to garner in Jeff Fort and the Black Peace Stone Nation, they did have an agreement. And while Fort was unwilling to join the Black Panther Party, he had much respect for Chairman Fred Hampton Fred Hampton Sr. And so while they didn't join forces, they were kind of like comrades in a sense, but not in the sense of being in the same organization. So Chairman Fred Hampton executed at 21 years old. That says a lot to what that attests to a lot of the work that he did by that age, and also the dangers that the establishment had for, you know, like they were scared of him at that young age because he was so politically smart, and he was a smart organizer as well. For him to get Latino gangs and white nationalist groups to band with the Black Panther Party, that is a sight to behold. So
yes,
yeah. So that is the end of my Black August segment.
oh wow, thank you, Gardis. Oh, let me tell you, I am very intrigued, especially about the Haitian dates that you gave for Black August. I want to hear more about that. Like you said, you just told us a part of the story. You got some comments if you got some time.
Yeah, come on, let's go.
So this was really good, Gardis. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we have Douglas came in, and Brandon, we appreciate you. Douglas says, I've learned more about Black history. I've learned more about Black history through Gardis than I ever did in school. It's very fascinating. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing about our school system. Black history is rarely taught, and if it is taught, they don't delve into the radicalization of Black history. And this is why Black August is important, because I also preference this, that we do not confuse Black August with Black History Month, because Black History Month has been made a celebration of Black accomplishments or whatever. But the thing about Black August is that it basically focuses on resistance, something that the schools don't want you to know. Like, they don't teach you about the Haitian Revolution. Why would they teach you about a group of slaves who basically not only overthrew the slave system, but actually formed their own nation? Why would they teach you that?
That's true. That's almost close to not wanting the slave to learn how to read, but just in modern day too. Like, why would they teach you that? And people might get organized now. We have no organization currently, it seems.
Yeah, and you know, you see all of these figures that I mentioned today, just today. There's so many connections with that, because remember when we talked about Jonathan Jackson and the Marion Court assault and how unsuccessful was that? Now, mind you, many people would look at it on the surface and say, why would he do that? That's dumb. That's like, why would he go with, a limited amount of people trying to kidnap a judge, knowing that, the sheriffs would come out with an army waiting for him to come out. And that's exactly what happened. Kind of the same thing with the Nat Turner Rebellion. And Nat Turner, while he was able to launch it and spark a lot of death, and they also burnt down a lot of plantations too, that wasn't successful as well. But however, here's the thing about revolutions, and especially timely revolutions. While they weren't successful, they were necessary. Necessary because the events that happened after that led to a point where the success of it, it became the foundation of the later successes. So when you think about Nat Turner's rebellion, over the next 30 years, you had nearly 200 slave rebellions that happened in the United States that basically culminated into the Civil War, which fortunately, abolished slavery after that. So you had to have a Nat Turner in order to lead all the way up to the Civil War. Same thing with Jonathan Jackson. So we probably haven't seen the fruits of what was gonna happen after that, but I think it's important for us to study that and understand it. So if there is an option for revolutionary violence, now I'm not calling for it now because none of us are prepared for it. But we get to a point where revolutionary violence might be necessary, then we'll have a blueprint of certain things that we can do and certain things we cannot do. But like I said, not calling for it. I'm just saying that in most revolutions, they're not bloodless. Malcolm X said that.
Oh, wow. And I love how you went back, like, even to the Bible days on, it always ends in bloodshed, right?
Yeah, because like I said, slavery is a violent institution within itself. And in looking at history, the only way it gets abolished is through bloodshed. I mean, if anybody in the chat can remind me, when was the only time or any time that slavery was abolished through negotiation?
Yeah, not just talking and coming to terms.
Because when you're in a situation of slavery, you don't have nothing to negotiate. The slaves can't negotiate. The only way they negotiate is, hey, we gonna have to kill the slave masters.
Yeah. So Brandon said, I hope I'm saying it right, L'ouverture.
Louverture.
Louverture is French for the quote the opening or the one who opened the way. I'm guessing he took the name for his meeting. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
LJ Free says Webster's Dictionary in 1828 edition clearly defines American as the copper-colored people found here by the Europeans, not from Africa and definitely not slaves. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Douglas says they were black presidents in the 1700s.
Yeah. I think I know what he's talking about. However, there was there's some controversy behind that because of the fact that it wasn't officially a United States at the time. Mind you, had the 13 colonies, but there's a lot of speculation with that. But I think I know what Douglas is talking about.
Okay. I had something to say earlier about the Louisiana Purchase. I wanted to ask, but this is called Rochambeau.
Rochambeau, yeah.
Rochambeau. Oh my goodness, no. Oh my goodness.
He was something.
Oh, that's just too much. Like to even. Okay. And it was something about the Louisiana Purchase. Like, didn't someone try to like tour it? It was like, I can't think of what it was. I remember learning about it in school. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. LJ says the French military and Napoleon was fighting during the 1800s. The so-called Reconstruction era was happening during the same century.
Well, is he talking about Reconstruction after the Civil War?
That's a good question. I hope LJ's still here. And also said the country of Haiti is poor because they powerfully resisted colonization and they were hit with embargoes.
Yeah. So the thing about the island of Haiti, or the nation or the Republic of Haiti was, well, let's just look at it like this. Many nations didn't recognize their independence, and it took the United States all the way towards the end of the Civil War to recognize Haiti as an independent nation. Now, mind you, like I said, Haiti was first formed in 1804. The end of the Civil War is 1865. So we're talking about almost 60 years before the United States finally recognizes it as an independent nation. So they never recognized it, and many other nations, especially the European powers, never recognized it as a nation. Matter of fact, France basically tried to conquer Haiti. And I want to also talk about this too, because people will say, like, because Haiti ended up paying reparations to France. They ended up paying reparations to France. And the only reason why is because there was a president in around 1840, 1820, called Jean-Pierre Boyer. Jean-Pierre Boyer was the longest serving president in Haiti. He served president for 22 years. After France exiled Napoleon Bonaparte, King Charles the 13th, I believe, became the ruler of France. He, just like Napoleon, wanted to go back and conquer Haiti. Well, Boyer the president of Haiti, had became president after he had to reunite the island of Haiti, because Haiti had got into a bad civil war after the death of Dessalines. And then you had the northern part of Haiti, which was called the Kingdom of Haiti, and then the southern part of Haiti was with the Republic of Haiti. And when Boyer got into office, he was able to reunite the entire Haitian nation. But the thing was that they had just, like I said, reuniting those two parts was hard, because they was fighting the civil war for nearly 15 years. And so what happened was King Charles of France decided, well, I'm about to send my navy over there to retake the island. Well, Boyer knew that he wasn't, his army wasn't able to withstand the might of the French army. So there were gunboats in the Bay of Port-au-Prince ready to bomb Port-au-Prince at one point. So President Boyer had to negotiate with the French army and King Charles, to say, hey, don't bomb our country. We'll, let's negotiate. And King Charles made the Haitian nation pay reparations to France, which they paid for nearly 70 years.
Wow. That's what Cher said. Didn't Haiti recently pay off France? Said how long they paid.
Yeah, they paid them for nearly 70 years. Now, what ended up happening too was in 1930, the United States got involved in Haiti, because Haiti at one point was like, you know what, we ain't paying this. And they stopped making payments. Well, the United States got involved, and they ended up invading Haiti in the 30s. And what they did was they bought the rest of the debt of France. They bought it from France and refinanced it, and told Haiti they needed to pay more money.
Okay. Choose, you had it. Choose was right. Yeah, this is what I was trying to think of, going back to Louisiana Purchase. Is it the Lewis and Clark expedition where President Thomas Jefferson wanted to explore the vast territory acquired from France?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't think of it. Thank you, Choose. That's exactly what it was. LJ says black is a status, as is white. Shaking my head. Wyoming says, I've been told Haiti is so beautiful.
I've been to Haiti, and it is.
It is.
Wow. Yeah. Well, when you get outside of Port-au-Prince, the one thing about Port-au-Prince, because it's the capital of Haiti and it's the most populous city in Haiti. I don't like heavily populated areas like New York. Like I don't like going to New York because it's just too many people there. Port-au-Prince is just like that, and including like my mom's home country, the Philippines, and Manila. I hate going to Manila because it's just too crowded.
Okay.
But when you get out of those places, like when you get out of Port-au-Prince, Haiti is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful.
Okay. And LJ said, truth, Gardis, French invaded, and yet Haiti was forced to pay them for losing the war. Equals war.
Yeah, and that's what I said. It's like when you get to a point where, and like I said, with a lot of the political turmoil that happened right after the Dessalines assassination, Dessalines was assassinated because the thing was that he broke off with a lot of his generals, including, and I can't think of that. The one general's name that was under Alexander Pétion. That was it. So Pétion and Dessalines fell out, and Pétion was kind of like a quadroon, I think, 1/4 of African. and he fell out with Dessalines, but Dessalines also had another general named Henry Christophe. Now, Christophe didn't care too much for Dessalines after some decisions that he made. So what happened was Pétain had this plot to assassinate Dessalines. And then when Dessalines was assassinated, Pétain tried to claim himself the rule of Haiti. Well, Henry Christophe was like, no, we have to have an election. And so Pétain was like, no, I am the successor. And what ended up happening? A civil war broke out.
Whoa.
A civil war broke out. And then it went to a stalemate where Pétain went to the southern part of Haiti and Christophe went to the northern part of Haiti. Well, what's interesting was they had two different types of government. So Pétain had a republic, a constitutional republic where he made himself president, and Henry Christophe had a monarchy where he made himself king. Oh. And he had a court and he had dukes and all that other stuff. So it's interesting because also too, the kingdom of Haiti, which was ruled by King Christophe, was actually more economically how should I put it? They had more economic success than the Republic of Haiti, because much of the crops that were grown in Haiti was in the northern part. Much of the resources that Haiti was able to build off of was in the northern part of Haiti.
Okay. That is very interesting. Wyoming said my friend lived and married in Haiti. She moved back a long time ago. A friend of hers was president for a short period of time after the president was assassinated a few years ago. Wow. Y'all, I appreciate Gardis. Thank you so much. I wasn't expecting you guys. I just let Gardis do his thing. Thank you so much for doing that, because I wasn't expecting some of the knowledge that we got tonight. And these stories were, in my words, this was deep. It was juicy. Like, this happened for real? Wow. And as for George Jackson, his George and Jonathan Jackson, their mother was so strong. And that statement you read, I just was like, it grieving, but the strength she had, oh my goodness.
And the reason why I read that testimony at Angela Davis's trial is because there was I wanted to contrast that with the video, because you notice in the video, this was right after George Jackson was assassinated. In that trial, she wanted to give up, and that's what I guess looking at that video and looking at the trial notes, that was it was a contrast there, because I think at that point she just got tired. She got tired, and when you lose children like that, it's like you don't want to be reminded. So when she got caught up in the whole Angela Davis thing and was testifying, I don't think she wanted to be reminded of or had anything to do with the death of her sons. So that was a message of despair when you talk about that. And I wanted to contrast those two. But what I also wanted to do was recommend a few books here.
Please.
I obviously, so obviously Blood in My Eye. That definitely is important for Black August stuff. I have Soledad Brothers on digital format, so I also recommend that. Let's see what else. I got a couple of books on Haiti. Oh, we talked about Fred Hampton. Here is The Assassination of Fred Hampton, written by his lawyer Jeffrey Haas. So that Also, another one. Let's see. This was actually the first book I read on Haiti. C.L.R. James and the Black Jacobins, written about 1938 or something like that. So he was like one of the first scholars who wrote a comprehensive history of the Haitian Revolution. So this was a book that kind of introduced me into the history of Haiti. Now, mind you, I remember my father long to tell me about the stories of Toussaint Louverture, but I never got the context of, why he did what he did. But this book actually gave me a little bit more clarity on, the history of Haiti. My favorite book, well, not my favorite book, but my favorite author, Dr. Gerald Horne, also wrote a history of the Haitian Revolution, but he also had made a companion to the founding of the Dominican Republic, because as you know, in that island that Haiti sits on, it shares the Dominican Republic. It used to be called Hispaniola. So he talks about the formation of the Dominican Republic along with the Haitian Revolution, which I find pretty fascinating when I read his book on the Haitian Revolution. And that's just kind of like a few books that I would basically suggest. But yeah, it's fascinating history when you think about Black August, because I think I started this in the beginning. Learning and teaching history is not just regurgitating dates, times, places, and people. It's about forming a political identity, because I think that's what a lot of historians and history teachers miss on that. And why is this important to me? And we have to learn that, and we have to understand, why do we have to learn this stuff? This stuff happened a long time ago. Well, the problem is that the events that have happened a long time ago are affecting what's happening now. And I think that's why we can't solve a lot of the problems, because we don't want to learn all that stuff back then.
Yeah. And if we would sink into the history and remember the things that happened back then, it would help us to come together today.
Oh my God. I mean, look, what do we met in the whole Dolton drama, right?
Yeah.
And what do we always say? It's like this is not, it's not encapsulated in these last 2 or 3 years that we had to deal with Tiffany Henyard. Tiffany Henyard came from a political environment that was fomented years ago, and it created somebody like a Tiffany Henyard. And now we're seeing it form into something else. Napoleon Harris, Jason Howe, whatever, because all of these people run together.
Yeah. And everyone's looking to gain and not out for the people, it seems. And when we have things like that, and us fighting amongst each other, you can never get a group to come together, for a positive reason. Maybe for financial reasons, but not a positive reason.
No. Yeah.
Like community, what we need, like community, like a village, being a village, supporting one another. When I think about Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., when I think about how they took him out at such a young age, because he was moving and changing people's lives. And I mean, like, what was it? A free lunch program and after school, free clothes, free books. Was that back then as well for the Black Panthers?
Free healthcare, all that stuff.
Yeah. That was too much. That was too much for people to see him be able at such a young age to gather a community and have a community work within itself and help each other. If you look at that history, it might help us.
No, yeah, it definitely would help us. What is that? Yeah, Haiti is full of shanty towns. It's not fair that it's overlooked because it's beautiful terrain for tourism. Yeah, it actually is. Unfortunately, with tourism, especially in in the Caribbean islands, a lot of the money does not go to the people. Like, take for instance Jamaica. Jamaica is one of the most how should I call it, popular tourist spots in the Western Hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
But yet the Jamaican people are poor.
Yeah.
Like, how is that possible? Like, you got millions of people come into that island spending a lot of money, but then when you go to Kingston, and especially poor parts of Kingston, they living in destitute.
That's crazy. With the tourism they have coming through there.
Exactly. But see, that's the thing about it. The government sells these lands to these foreign Western investors, and they basically pay them little to less to rent out their space, not really trying to demand what really is necessary to sustain the economy of that particular nation. And it's almost like you renting out a room to a millionaire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So would that be I know that's a conversation for another day, but would that be a problem with their government? Because where is the tourism money going to? Like, what was negotiated upon, like, for the surrounding areas?
Yeah, and that's and you hit it right on the head. That was their government that negotiated that. But see, the thing is that when the government is not serving the people and they're serving themselves, that's what happens. Because the people aren't seeing that money. It's the people who are running the government who's seeing the money.
Oh, yeah. And it's almost like this is totally different, guys. But I'm thinking about when we're going back to the Southland, every time I pass by Harvey or pass through Harvey, I wonder, especially downtown, I'm like, how could downtown look like this? And we got Pace, RTA, Metra. We got all of these. At one time, we had AT&T had a hub there. And it looks like that. And they have like this great business coming through. UPS is over in Harvey. Like, what kind of deals were negotiated? I always think about that.
Yeah, and don't forget about this too, because Harvey actually has factories there.
Oh, you're right.
But here's the thing, and this is what I heard from a person who used to be in the Harvey City Council, that many of those factory workers don't live in Harvey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're from Indiana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure them factory workers are making like $30-$40 an hour.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they don't give the jobs to the community. And the same with like the city jobs. Like, a lot of the police officers and firefighters don't live there. But they they're supposed to protect that community. A lot of the teachers don't live there,
Yeah, and this is the problem we have with politics now, because politicians would sell out the people to corporate lobbyists and to corporations for little to no cost. I mean, look at the deal Mayor Daley did with the parking meters.
Oh, yeah.
75 years. They started putting parking meters in places where people don't even park their cars at.
Oh, gosh.
Like
what's the purpose of that?
I don't know, but like, for instance, like, imagine yourself riding on the Dan Ryan and you're getting off on, say, I think it's Pershing, So if you go, if you make a left, because I go down this road because my church is in that area. So when you get off the expressway and you make a right, you go into that viaducts, and there's like a street that you hit right after you get out, get from under the viaducts, and there's no houses there, there's no businesses there. It's basically empty space land over there, but there's parking meters there. Why do you have parking meters there?
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
that parking deal. Yeah, it's endemic to politics, and yes, Daley got away with not just going to jail, but he got a bag on his way out.
Oh, isn't that, I knew nothing about politics, wasn't paying attention to it. When I tell you now, certain things I'm just watching, like even now, sometimes when I turn on what's going on in Chicago with the mayor there, I'm just like, wow, like, is anyone thinking about community? What they say they are when they're getting in there, but
well, my old expression I go to: politicians are not your friends. They're not supposed to be your friends, because when we start being friends with these politicians, we let them get away with a lot of things that would hurt our community, because then at that point you start to form not just constituents or people, voters. You start to form cliques and cults, because you're not supposed to question your friends of decisions. You're supposed to let them do what they do. Give them time, that type of thing. They've only been in office for 60 days type of thing. But we're supposed to suspend, critical thinking that, people can't, like politicians. Yeah, politicians can't destroy a community in 60 days. That's impossible. Okay. All right, I'll let you believe that.
Yeah, because it certainly happens.
Donald Trump is literally trying to. He basically kind of tore the country in the first 3 months.
Can I ask this question? And feel free not to answer. Do you think possibly? What are your thoughts on them saying that Donald Trump is going to bring the National Guard to Chicago?
Oh, he's going to try. I definitely feel he's going to do that. I mean, when that thing happened in DC, I automatically said that's a testing ground. That was a testing ground for National Guards in this city. And actually, Los Angeles was also another testing ground, because he tried to do that over there as well. It still, it hasn't been too successful over there. Like the first couple of days it has, but I think they were drawn from Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. But no, I think this was all towards Chicago.
Oh.
And a lot of other cities where black mayors are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never thought about it like that, because when I heard that, I was like, okay, I just thought about what happened in LA, and then to say that they're possibly coming, it's like the end of summer, and so many people have lost their lives already in the streets of Chicago this summer alone.
Well, statistically, they said that the homicides are down this year. That's what they've been reporting.
And you know what? The last couple of the first 2 weekends in August, I have acquaintances, 3 of them now. I guess it's the 3rd week of August. They all lost black sons.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, if you were gonna send them, you're gonna wait till after the summer. That's gonna be probably a waste. to the winter, we don't have that action, you know.
Yeah.
But I was wondering with the LA, wait a minute, I'm saying he's sending them for that, but he's really trying to send them for like immigrants and stuff like that, right? In his words.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously they're actually already on the streets. Like we got a lot of these so-called ICE agents who been deputized, you know, in the last day or so and put masks on, but you know, they're technically what I call mercenaries. You know, they're mercenaries. So yeah, he already has them deployed on the streets. But this comment, Wyoming gal said, he said they were coming to Portland and Seattle, and those are white males. Yeah, that's true. But also remember this too, because Seattle was basically an important city when you're talking about the George Floyd protest.
Oh,
There was a lot of conflict and destruction that happened in Seattle during that time.
Yeah. Do you think, and I'm not gonna hold you because you know I could be long-winded. Do you think that we would ever see great leaders like we did have in the future?
Yeah, I think we will. I just feel like we need to identify them.
Okay.
Because sometimes we can make a hero into a villain because we're not understanding some of the stuff that he or she may be trying to educate us with, trying to tell us with, because a lot of times popular media and the establishment would tell us, no, don't pay attention to these particular people because they're bad for you. And they would just tell you that they're bad for you without putting any context to it, with false notions of their work. But yeah, we just have to learn to identify who the leaders are, and sometimes they can actually make those who are genuine, who have successfully led communities into different spaces that are better for them. They can quickly villainize them as well. I think I said in the when we did Dr. King, towards the end, towards the the last 3 years of his life, Dr. King was villainized.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He was villainized as un-American, and this was a guy that everybody loved at first when he was just focusing on civil rights.
Wow. So you guys, we got a playlist. And it's historical chats and lessons. I'll share it on my community tab, and then I'll also list the books that Gardis recommended. I put it in the chat, but I'll list it there as well. And LJ says genealogy has been and will always be important. Talk to your elders and remember who you are.
Exactly, I agree.
That is that is crazy. And Wyoming says Seattle and Portland have not recovered from the 2020 riots. Wow.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I was like, Seattle was a very important thing, and if I can remember, I think Portland was as well.
Wow. Well, this was part 4 of our Black August Flea Days discussion. Gardis, do you have anything else you want to share with us?
No, I enjoyed this. Now back to Southland politics. I know you're gonna have me on talking about Gardis. Come up on stage and let's talk about Southland politics.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about some stuff that's just been, floating around. I definitely don't want to get into the drama stuff. So we're gonna try to always keep it on the educational part of the politics.
Yeah,
I'll try.
The last week we have a couple of surprises. So Look, I'm ready to talk about it when you are.
And then, and also, I want to say, when we were talking about a lot of things that happened in Black August, these leaders didn't have tons of resources. Like, we have to think about now in 2025, it wasn't no Cash App, no PayPal. You know, you might have gave an offering like in a little church envelope or something like that, passed over. But to fight an entire government, to fight, like, again, going back to Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., to fight the entire United States government or whoever, and people, spies in the camp and all of that stuff. It's just with limited resources, being one person that grew the parts of the Black Panthers, which I want to talk about. Does Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. have an event coming up for his father's birthday? Did we find out the dates?
Yeah. You know what? I think he does have something. Because he normally celebrates it on his father's birthday, but
Okay.
yeah, he typically celebrates it on his father's birthday. And let me see if he posted anything, because I would normally get something by now, but yeah, it doesn't seem like
it's still a little early, right? We got a couple of
we still got like we still got maybe another week or so, because I think next Saturday is the 30th, right?
Yeah. And the thing about it, like, Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. could very well still be here alive and well in his 70s if he wasn't taken from us.
Oh, here it goes. Let me share this. There we go.
Okay, let me bring you on up. I just see here you go. I just said let's go. Okay, so we have it here, August 30th through the 31st, the annual Chairman Fred Street Party of 2025, 12 to 6. Footwork for Chairman Fred. That's cute.
Mm-hmm.
They got the team up there. So go to savehamptonhouse.org. You guys, I'm gonna try to be there on the 31st, because I know the 30th I have a lot going on.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Gardis.
Yep. So,
all right, guys, I'll share that too. And Choose loves when you talk about Chairman Fred Hampton, and also we did talk about in part 2 the other thing. She was like, I can't wait for Gardis to talk about what happened with the chairs in August, when the Black people couldn't dock.
The Montgomery boat fight.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I appreciate you, Gardis. Thank you for all this knowledge. Y'all can put the playlist on the community tab, and I'll see you on the other side. I appreciate you.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, Gardis. So that was so good. I knew nothing. Okay. I'm over here taking notes, especially about the Haitian Revolution, what happened there. That was quite interesting, y'all. So give it up for Gardis Watts. Like we said, put the light bulbs in the chat if you can. And we appreciate him so much for just giving us that knowledge. Y'all, it's so important to me to learn something new, keep talking about history. I know we don't have a big crowd, so I appreciate him for lending that time to a small audience, and I appreciate you guys sticking with something different and learning about some history today. And then copper colored like a penny. Don't despise humble beginnings. 100 pennies equals $1, and dollars make sense. That's beautiful, LJ. Yep. Riverboat freedom fight. Yes, that's what it was. Okay. And I'm like, I was like, wow. And just to think it happened in August. All right, you guys, you have a great night. I'll be back soon. I don't know what the next subject will be, because I'm gonna be delving into this history of Black August. I appreciate you so much. And Chu said that was wonderful. That's why I didn't have much comment. So much learning. I agree. Thank you, LJ, Wyoming, Choose, everybody. I appreciate everybody for being here. Douglas, Brandon, everybody. And you guys have Wyoming Gal. Thank you guys. And y'all have a wonderful night. And I'll see you soon. You take care of yourself and each other. Bye.
Commentary blue, commentary, burgundy, commentary, commentary blue, commentary, comment burgundy blue.